too many lives today, and here we go. Oh my goodness. So anyways, welcome to day 3, where we're going to talk about the third pillar of my parenting philosophy. And the big thing that I want to talk about today is discipline. Now, discipline for so many people has this awful connotation, and it really upsets me because discipline is to disciple, and everybody has slightly different variation of this, but I've come to the point of calling it it's to discipline, it's to guide and to teach. Now, guiding and teaching our kids is what we are required to do as parents, like it or not. I know, pisses us off sometimes. We don't feel like doing it. It's like, really, again, I've told you 50,000 times, don't touch whatever it is, or, don't hit your brother. And we have to discipline our kids. And the reason we need to do that is so that we can help teach them how to be good human beings. Because honestly, you're not raising kids, you're raising adults. And it's really important for you to know and keep that in mind, because as time goes on and sort of the grind of parenting can get to you, we need to remember that it's our job to teach them the pluses and the to be able to, okay, hang on. Discipline is important. And the reason it's important is because it teaches kids to think for themselves. It teaches them choices. It teaches them personal responsibility. It teaches them accountability. And all these things that we put together allow us to get our kids to the point where they are these amazing adults. Now, a lot of people think of discipline as being really negative, and I want to let you know that is not something I've ever ascribed to, nor do I ever encourage it, but I also understand why it happens. It happens for a lot of reasons. A lot of parents have generational trauma that they pass on and they are reliving. A lot of parents have been raised in ways that was perfectly normal. A lot of times we don't really know. I mean, it's just what we've seen. It's normal to us and away we go. Now, I said this a few times. In the last couple of days, that it's a little bit different. We have this overload of parenting information. So what I decided is that I need to really kind of get into all of this and talk to you about cutting out the chatter and the noise, to being able to, do these things and parent in a way that makes sense to you and your family. And yes, I am totally checking on some of my notes just to keep me on track today, because I have done 3 lives today and the brain gets tired. So let's get on with it. Okay. So now that we've kind of established that discipline is to guide and to teach, it's really important that we begin to understand why we need to, which we just talked about, but also how we need to. Now, when I talk about discipline or I talk about consequences, I said it forever and ever and ever, that consequences are either positive or negative. I've used this example many times. If you speed and you get a ticket, it's a negative consequence. It's also logical, makes sense, right? You speed, you get a ticket, right? The rules are out there. You break the rules that somebody else imposed. Here's your consequence. Now, you can also drive said same car, do the speed limit, no problem. Positive outcome, right? Positive consequence. So positive and negative consequences aren't necessarily this really polarized opposite. Negative consequences don't have to be the kind of negative that will just grind you down. The negative can be a teaching moment. It can be like, oh, if I didn't do my homework and hand it in, I didn't get the mark. Or if I threw my toy at my little brother after I was told not to, I lost my toy. Doing things like this helps children to connect their behavior with an outcome. And I think that's really crucial. I know it's really crucial. And a lot of parents get mixed up and they start using threats and they yell and they scream and they react to kids' behavior and coming up with some stuff that just makes no sense. And then they wonder why in the heck their kid is still throwing the toy at their brother, or why they are still not doing their homework or taking out the trash, because you've thrown some consequence threat out there that means nothing to them. They have no respect for. They know you're not going to follow through. And if you do, it's going to be over in 5 minutes anyway. So whatever, Dad, smell you later. Whatever, Mom. I know you don't mean it. So when you parent the way I teach you, you parent very proactively. And by being a proactive parent, you make your life easier, which means you're not constantly reacting to, don't hit your brother. Don't pay the dog. Right? You see what I mean? When your kids know, when you use the 3 principles and you have the discipline in place that makes sense, is fair, and is easy to follow through, meaning you're always going to, whether you feel like it or not. So been there, done that. There's been times I'm like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. And I made the choice to my kids, and I said this to them. If you guys don't choose, note that word, to stop screaming while we are in here, we will go back to the van and you will have to sit there until you calm your jets. Did I want to do that? No, I did not want to do that. But I also knew that if I didn't do something, or if I said it and didn't follow through, I was going to be schnookered the next time, because then the kids go, oh, you didn't really mean it. That's why discipline and why people say consistency is so hard. Yes, sometimes. But when you are able to be proactive in your parenting, the amount of disciplining you need to do gets less and less and less and less. And I've seen it hundreds of times. I see it all the time with the parents I work with. They quite often, they quite often go from being this reactive and, if you don't take the garbage out, I know I'm using this one a lot, you're not getting your iPad for a month. And they're like, I can never get my kids to clean up. I said, well, what's the deal? Well, if they don't clean the dishes, I said, what do you say? Like, well, I tell them they can't see their friends, or I tell them that they aren't going to get this or that. And I'm like, well, how does that connect? And these are parents with a little bit older kids. We're not talking 2 and 3-year-olds. We're talking the 7, 8, 9-year-olds. They said, well, what would you do? I'm like, well, I just leave the dishes. If they didn't move the dishes, next meal, I guess they can't have whatever meal because the dishes are still there. That's a logical connects in your brain consequence. A natural consequence, because this is really important that I separate the two. And this is, part of the program that I put together for you guys that is half the reason we're here, because we're celebrating a couple of things. But the big deal is that when you actually start looking at things, for example, your kid doesn't want to wear their rubber boots when it's raining and you're going outside. They want to wear, let's say your daughter wants to wear her sparkly shoes. Do you want her to wear her party shoes out? No. Does it really matter? Will it harm them? Is it really inappropriate? Probably not. So what do? Let them wear the party shoes. Why? You're like, but that's just giving in. No, because when they complain that their feet are cold and wet, of course, make sure you're not going to be out for hours and hours. Like, use your sense here, people. Parenting is some common sense, and I hope you take a big cupful before you start with your kids. When you allow them to feel the consequence without it putting them in any sort of physical harm, like you're not going to put your kid out in a bathing suit because they want to wear it in the snow, okay? But allowing your daughter to get the wet feet will make her think, so next time you say, hey guys, it's raining out and, let's keep our feet dry. Let's put our boots on. Your daughter, 9 shots out of 10, is going to go, I want my boots. And if she goes for the shoes again, you can then say, do you remember last time when you chose your shoes? How did that feel? And you just leave it. So discipline is guiding them. See how I did that last example? I was guiding the discipline. I was guiding the consequence to basically get what I wanted her to do, which leaves me in charge, which is my job. But it also allowed your child the freedom to make a choice that was not unsafe so they could experience it. When kids don't get that opportunity to experience the result, the consequence, either positive or negative, of their decisions, we do them a disservice. I call it cotton candy parenting. And I went live about a year ago, quite a while ago, and it went viral because I called out parents. I called them out on their threats, their inconsistency, their not following through by not leading and guiding their kids in a positive way. So because these kids at this point, at the time that of the situation, I was like, they're running amok and they don't care about anyone, and they all think I'm going to be fine. Nothing will ever happen to me. Had parents done less cotton candy parenting, which is all air and fluff and looks like something, okay, we've all done it. It's okay. Truly, we've all done it. But having done that, we can make changes. We can recognize, okay, you know what? That wasn't a good idea. And though it may have worked in the moment, it is not a long-term solution to the situation. And that's why you are likely going back over and over again saying, I have tried everything and nothing works. I've done timeout. It doesn't work. I've done timeout. It doesn't work. I've yelled at my kids. It doesn't work. Okay. It doesn't work because you don't have a plan in place. It doesn't work because you're not understanding what discipline really means on a deep level. It means that you aren't following through in a way that makes sense and connects with your kids' brains. So of course they're going to do the same thing. If we put our hand on the stove, we're never going to put our hand on the stove again. Don't let your kids, okay, just don't go there. But the point being is that when we are the leaders for our kids, when we guide them and we teach them and we assist them and allow them to make mistakes and learn from their own experiences in a way that will benefit them. Sorry, going out with a summer jacket on a rainy afternoon is not the best choice, but it's not going to be dangerous. It's not going to be, detrimental to their well-being, and they'll learn, maybe I need to wear my rain jacket next time. Or instead of wearing my sparkly shoes, which I really, really love, I'm going to wear my boots because my feet will be warmer and I can play outside longer. All of this is the things that I teach my clients when I work with them. And I only work with them one-on-one because parenting is very specific to each family. Discipline can look different to each family. When you follow the 3 pillars of my parenting philosophy, especially with the discipline, that sort of, when you put them together, you have this beautiful tripod that is rock solid, always works, and allows you to be really consistent just by the nature of using these 3 principles. So it's really important that you understand that. There is, in all likelihood, going to be times you're going to lose your temper and you're going to say something that you didn't want to say, or you're going to throw out a consequence that you didn't really mean. Now, here's something that is so wonderful about the way I teach and the way that I look at discipline. Discipline is not absolute. The consequence you give is not always absolute. It's about 98.99% absolute. Because there are times that we as parents can react and pop something off at the top of our head and we're like, oh. So what you can do, especially as your kids get older, and even when they're younger, you can go up to them and you can get at their level. You say, you know what? I was really thinking about how I reacted. And I've had a chance to think about it, and I don't think I made the right choice. What you do is you are then again modeling this beautiful behavior that, hey, I make a mistake, but I can go back and fix it. Not always. We don't want our kids to think that we're constantly apologizing, because then they look at us like, you are not the anchor I need to be. I need solid stability. We all know that. We feel better, right? If you go into a big venue and you've got somebody saying, okay, you go here, and you go here, that feels a whole lot better than somebody that walks into a big arena and there are no signs and you don't know where to go and everybody kind of mills around and it gets anxiety producing. Good analogy, right? Think about it. When you provide that consistent here, and on occasion you go, oh, wrong way, gotta go that way, you don't mind. You kind of go with it. Okay, no big deal. You're much more amicable about going along with things. And that's what it is with discipline. There are times where, yes, our emotions will get the better of us. It happens. But what's really, really important is to be able to say to your kids, I sat down and I thought about what happened. And I really didn't like how blah, 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 blah. So I thought that, so I'm going to pull that back and we're going to come up with something different. I've done it with my kids maybe maybe twice I needed to, where I gave them a consequence that in retrospect really didn't kind of, I would say, do the crime, do the crime, hang on, do the crime, do the time, right? I used to say it to my kids all the time. And for them, it would mean something like, it would be very inconsequential, like sitting time out or not being able to get to soccer practice on time because, hey, you didn't have your stuff done. You don't have your stuff together. I'm not chasing you around. You're, 14. Figure it out. So when we are able to look back and on occasion say to our kids, you know what, I reacted by saying, you can't go to that party that you have really been excited about. I realized that that was not a fair or not a reasonable consequence to what your decision was, to what your behavior was. And you can adapt that. And I have done that. Don't use it all the time. Use it sparingly, because kids really do need to know, where you are and where you're coming from. They thrive on that. I did a live recently and we talked about building fences around your kids, which is the boundaries. And that's something I'm going to be talking about. Calm, clear, firm, loving boundaries. We're going to talk about that tomorrow. That's another part of my parenting philosophy that when you combine with what I've talked about over the last 3 days, really kind of starts to glue it all together, okay? So when we have this ability to, be proactive, to think about how we are going to respond to our kids' actions and choices ahead of time, it becomes easier. For example, if you know that you are incessantly fighting with your tween about finishing the stinking homework, or you know that your 2-year-old is going to throw a toy at their friend, you will have already had the opportunity to set them and yourself up for success. And I say that because I work with entrepreneurs. We don't work with our clients and say, oh, I want you to do this, and then just hand it all to them and let them be. We don't just spring things on them. We've thought, we've listened, we've assessed the situation, we come up with a plan, we teach them how we're gonna execute it and what the results will be. And if they choose not to do it, well, you can't get mad at me for not getting the results, right? Same thing as when my parents were with me. I say, you are guaranteed results if you do what I tell you. If you fall off the wagon and you don't do it, can't help you. That's your choice. That is the consequence of not following through and doing what I've told you. You won't have success. It's the same thing when any coach teaches us stuff like that, whether it be a swimming coach, a personal trainer, a nutritionist, whatever. So when you are working with your kids, pick one thing that is just a real disciplinary thing. Because when we talk about discipline, it's really about stopping and thinking of how's the best way to guide and to teach them. Think about that one issue that you want to tackle that is going to end up in a fight or a disagreement or is anxiety provoking or is a trigger for you. I want you to stop, like a car, like when we got taught to, cross the street, stop, look, listen. I want you to stop. I want you to look at the situation and I want you to listen to what you're saying. Does it make sense? Does it directly connect to what it is? And is it something that is follow throughable? Or am I just blowing wind? That's it for today. I wanted you to think about that. I want you guys to really start looking at what discipline means. Now, I know you're doing the very best you can with what you've got. And I get it. Okay, but there's always room for us to become better parents and learning the skills and the techniques and the things that go along to be a better, stronger, more loving, more clear, giving our kids that space and those guidelines that they need to thrive and feel safe, because that's what they need. They need these things. It's how they're built, because it's like going into that arena. Remember? Much easier to go and be and do all the things you need to do when you've got somebody who's actually helping you out. Go that way. Be like like an airplane. Direct the traffic. You know where they need to go. You know what you want the end result is. And now you know that your discipline needs to make sense in order for it to connect. Now, There's always exceptions to the rule. I get that. You may have kids that are extra special. You may have kids that have special needs. You may have kids that are just sheer strong-willed little gods and goddesses that are right now giving you gray hair and make you want to run away from home. However, I want you to turn that around and look at them as just these great leaders in the making. So hopefully you both survive. And I want you to make sure that you pop on again tomorrow, because we're going to talk about boundaries, what they mean to your kids, how you can come up with them, and what you can do to start implementing them into your home in a way that doesn't create conflict, but creates community. All right, you guys, thank you so much for being here. This has been an incredible week, and we are getting closer and closer to the big celebration, and I really want you to be here. As a matter of fact, I even went and got some special things to help celebrate, but I'll show you tomorrow. All right, you guys, have a wonderful, wonderful afternoon. Please make sure that you know that you are always welcome to hop into my inbox and just shoot me a note. I am always available for you. I will get back to you as quickly as possible. You are not in this alone, and it takes great courage and great strength to reach out for help with your kids. You do not need them to be completely off the rail and owning your household before you can say, hey, I need a hand. It's okay, because the quicker we deal with things, the quicker it's done, the easier it gets, and the more fun you can have with your kids. Trust me. I helped with over 83 kids that were registered over 15 years. And I tell you, I had more fun than I had challenges, because I followed my 3 principles of identifying the behavior, creating clear communication, and using positive parenting discipline with them. Okay, so that's it. You guys, we'll see you here tomorrow, same time, same station, same bad channel. Right, we'll talk to you soon. You take care. Bye. Can I do this?